That's one of the things, Finch, about your captaincy. People think that you did it for like half a year, didn't they? Don't they?
I do. I genuinely do. But it wasn't until this podcast came along that I realised I had a year and a half worth of doom and gloom. Thank you to our 4 sponsors for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Art Caterers and Milltown Pies, Alexander Grace Law, Jez and Lisa's Spoonful of Sweets, and SPE Furnishings. Links to their websites are available in the show notes and on our website. Don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they're released.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Housecast, the podcast from Lowerhouse Cricket Club, which it seems now each fortnight we pull together. Don't have any major guests on, albeit we've got a fantastic one on tonight to help us through. And we just discuss what's gone on, the scores, the results, how things are going at the cricket club, etc., etc. So, welcome to the Housecast. Good evening, Joe Martin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah. I've been pinching out my tomatoes this afternoon.
Excellent. I've never been. Jez, you'll testify how amazed I was wandering around your garden yesterday.
Yeah, when you saw my tomatoes hanging down. But yeah, you've got to pinch them out because then the feed that you give them feeds the actual tomatoes and not the plant. So yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. I see you're not in the Joe Martin suite. Was something happened?
No, just as is apparent, my timekeeping is poor.
Yeah, it is.
So halfway through my run tonight, I remembered that we had a podcast, and then so I had to cut it short, and then came back, and then I didn't have time and then I forgot my bag because I was training. So I usually bring my laptop bag and stuff, but I forgot it. So I'm from my actual house tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, a bit of a bummer that. So you're having to use your own Wi-Fi and your own electricity.
I haven't got any of the lights on.
Right, okay. Well, at least you're saving that. Anyway, right, Dooch, how are you? How's things in the Beneducci household?
Yeah, great. I ain't got any gardening stories to talk about like you two, pinching tomatoes or anything like that, or running stories for that matter. I don't do either.
No, you've you moved into your new house. Is that all settled down? Is everything fine?
All good. Yeah, just a little bit further away from the cricket club, so I have to think about that when I'm planning my weekends now. I can't just stumble across the road afterwards. But yeah, all good, thanks. All good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you've done that. And tonight we've got a special guest with us who's come on for numerous reasons, but he has played in a couple of games we're going to discuss. It's the one and only Jonathan Finch. Welcome on the Housecast, Finch.
Evening, Jez. Hope you're all well. It's nice that you brought me in during the holiday period just to fill a few gaps before the big boys come later on in the summer, but pleasure to be here.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we've had you on a couple of times before, Finch, in a couple of the earlier ones. I think you were on with Macca, weren't you? And did you come on with Ryan as well?
No, just on with Macca.
You were supposed to come on with Corbus.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But he got pulled away.
Similar to my cricketing career. Thinking about pulling out at the last minute, and we won't take that one any further, shall we?
Yeah. Right. No, that's good. Interesting, Finchy. We've just been chatting before we started recording. You're down watching the 100. It's the opening game tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah. The first standalone women's fixture tomorrow of the 100. The new competition. So kind of, a bit of a sales pitch this, but to get cricket to a wider audience and get a different generation involved. So yeah, excited about that. Very lucky to be involved in that. So down in the big smoke for a couple of days.
Brilliant. This wasn't on the agenda, Finchy, but if you don't mind, there's a lot of opposition to the 100, and I'm looking at the format of it in the ladies and the men's game. It does seem like it could be something brand new. A lot of people are talking about it. Have you got your head around the rules and everything?
Yeah, just about. As a traditionalist, someone who grew up watching cricket and 60 over one-day matches on BBC Two, and getting there. Ultimately, it's just a it's another game of cricket, isn't it? It's someone
Yeah.
trying to get you out, someone trying to whack it out the park, but with a whole new atmosphere that hopefully brings new people. It's free to air TV. You can't beat. It's what probably all four of us, or however many is on the call, grew up watching. So really excited by it. And from a really personal perspective, it's starting to put the women on the same kind of pedestal as the men, and that's only a positive thing for the game globally. For us in England and Wales. So
without a doubt, and it's so true is that that once it gets out there and we get used to this, 10 ball overs, someone can bowl 5 balls and then they can carry on bowling. It'll just be, it'll be interesting to see the tactics of it and how it develops. And is it, again, I'm watching a little bit of the Lancashire men's this year, and I'm finding it incredible how the batters are developing in the T20 formats, the different shots they're playing and the power. Yeah. Would you say that's the same in the women's game at the T20 level? Is it all back to no bowlers?
Yeah, no, things evolved, aren't they? And the way the T20 game's evolved in the men's game is no different to the evolution in the women's game.
Yeah.
The men just play a hell of a lot more. So they get more opportunities to execute and showcase their skills. Whereas, a young female player plays maybe a quarter of the game. So it's a bit more, but it's great to watch, isn't it? I've not seen any of the cricket tonight, but you watch Livingston whack it over the stand at Trent Bridge. It's as a true cricket fan that loves Test match cricket, you've still got to love that. You've got to love the audacity and the ability that
you said Trent Bridge there. You mean the Headingley one the other day?
That's what I meant. Yeah.
It's interesting because if you don't mind, I can have a little whinge on here. I went to the Yorkshire Lancashire 4-dayer at Headingley, and they were unable to play because water was coming up through the bowlers' run-ups. Believe it or not, they went off after hours.
Were Lancashire on top?
Absolutely battering.
Oh, were they?
Absolutely. 420 odd for 2, I think it was. One of their players unfortunately slipped. I'm sure you've read it. It's absolutely baking. It's rock hard. There is no one slipping anywhere. And I don't care.
It sounds a bit like a United Utilities issue at the mighty Lowerhouse, doesn't it?
It does, when that drain used to bust at the top and come running down. But then, my opinion, they bottled it because of the injury. They've said it wasn't because of that. They said there was water coming up through the run-ups. But
everyone's got an opinion, Jez.
Yeah, exactly. And then they called day 4 off, and it was still cracking the flags. And then 2 days later, Livingston's hit it. But anyway, back to Livingston. That has got to be. Has it been measured? Do we know? Has anyone seen anything?
Well, no. It was so big that Hawkeye couldn't pick it up. So,
right.
Pazza, our pro, talked about it at the weekend. They said, he's starting to do at England level what he did at club cricket back in the day, and to be able to do that is just something special, isn't it? And the exciting thing there is 3 or 4 of them can do that in that England team, and it's like, wow, we lose a full team to COVID, and they come in and still win. Yeah. Anyway,
you see the size of that stand, and to hit it into the rugby league, right? The field at the rugby league is, you've got to look at 120 metres plus.
I'll be honest. When I saw it, it was reminiscent of a Joe Beneducci straight drive off Peter Sleep back in the day.
Right.
I'm honest.
Yeah.
It was up there with some of the best. So.
I think the only thing with Livingston is he plays a little bit too straight. If he's more traditional, like Joe Beneducci, and hits it like a rounder's bat with a bat, and then it disappears dead straight. No one's ever known how he's done it. Anyway, very quiet around your shots there, so we'll move on. So what we're going to do is just talk through. We've 3 games to discuss. I think you've played in 2 Finchs, is that right? We've got the Norden, Darwin, and Walsden.
I turned up for 2. I put the whites on.
Yeah, you've played in 2, and Joe, you played in 3. So if we just quickly go through, I think in date order, the Norden game, where reduced overs, I think it was, and we probably didn't get enough. Were you at that one, Dooch, or were you at the Darwin?
No, I was at Norden. Yeah, I was there at Norden.
What's your thoughts about that, Dooch? Did we get done because of the reduced overs?
I don't think the overs were reduced, yes.
Right?
Yeah, they were.
Were they? I know the start was delayed.
It was a 37 over game.
Oh, was it? Okay. Lanksley, you've got it as a 50 over game still.
No.
Okay. Well, we didn't get done by the reduced overs because the overs had been reduced before the game started.
Okay.
It wasn't a case of us losing time once we'd already started batting. We got off to a real good start. Our openers put on a good opening partnership. And then after that, we kind of just lost wickets at really bad times. A couple of dismissals that weren't fantastic. And we ended up stumbling a little bit. And we didn't have our usual mid to late order push. We did a little bit. Blaise and Dean got teams apiece, but nothing major.
Yeah.
Blaise was run out. And we didn't get enough to put them under any pressure at any stage. They got off to a flyer, and because they were always miles ahead of the rate, we could never ever put them under any kind of pressure whatsoever. Their opener, Tommy, batted really well, but completely at his own pace. Didn't have to take any risk, and we could just never get on top of them, really.
Yeah. And it seemed...
Sorry, just jump in. Norden's a really difficult ground to judge what a first innings score is, because we haven't played there very often. You got kind of weird boundaries, short boundaries. So you sometimes don't have a clue what a decent score is to chase there. So, 150 or whatever it was could have been competitive. But as I think Matt talked about it earlier on in the season, when the seconds played there, we thought we had enough. But again, they chased it down. And it seems as though that's a kind of ground, knowing what you need to chase is an advantage. It'd be interesting to see how many games are won batting second there.
Yeah, and like you said, the grounds that we've all played on for year and year, you do work things out, and the new grounds might be a bit of an advantage. But I think it's fair to say we got beat fair and square in that. Joe Martin, what were your outlook on that particular game? As a player.
I think Joe was right. We just didn't put any. We couldn't generate any pressure at all, and they won it off the first ball of the last over. But it flattered us, really, to be honest with you. So it really flattered us actually, because they could have won it at any point. They didn't really play any big shots or anything like that. Yeah. They just sort of were ease, I would say.
Okay, and from there, do you think that rolled into the game against Darwin, when I think we got absolutely battered, Joe Martin?
You're on mute, Joe. I mean, we've only been doing this podcast now for a year and a half.
I would just say I got a pizza, so I was showing Joe.
So, didn't know what it was. Thanks for telling me.
Well, I think actually it was a bit odd, to be honest with you, because it's really hard to say, because obviously we had a COVID outbreak after the Norden game, so all the first team were plunged into isolation. Thank you. And we couldn't do anything for 10 days. I had to buy a treadmill. I couldn't go out running.
I got the blame for that as well, didn't I, Dooch?
Yeah, it's a good point actually, because Finchie won't come back and play. So it would have been fine. Finchie has about 7 COVID tests a day.
So what's happened there? Can we name the player or not?
Of course we can. This is not confidential. No. So the COVID culprit was Don Stewart.
Right.
Delta
so he'd obviously been away at university or doing university-related activities, and came back and played his first game at Norden, first game back from university, and started feeling ropey during the game. Had a COVID test and was positive, so he caused the outbreak. Now, if Finch should have been available for that Saturday game at Norden, there's a possibility that Don wouldn't have played in the first team. So Finch's dodgy availability caused the whole outbreak in a roundabout way.
Right. So Finch's fault again, poor Finch.
It must definitely stem back to my captaincy in 2007. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. Yeah, so Dom, what you're saying, Dooch, is Dom has been at university. He's possibly not adhering to social distancing. with, whether it's males or females, and then he's come back and the whole first team has to isolate.
Yeah, I don't know about the social distancing, Jez. I don't know.
Right.
He could have got it in an entirely innocent manner. I have no idea.
Yeah. So, Joe Martin, what was that like? So everyone, is it 10 days? You had to isolate?
I had to isolate for 10 days, yeah.
So the semi-final was called off. The middle league game was called off.
Yep, in Middleton.
That was good, tough, I guess. No training, no practice, no getting together.
It wasn't. It wasn't easy, to say the least. First, it was very difficult. Very difficult for 10 days, especially when you see everybody else playing as well.
Yeah.
And you can't even leave your house, to go and get something to.
Mm. So that's not great. So the Darwin game.
So the Darwin game, it was a really strange game. We'd only had a chance to train on the Thursday because we were out of isolation on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's to blame at all. We scored at quite a good rate but we just kept losing wickets very quickly. Ben batted extremely well on his first game back since his really bad injury. I can't believe that he played and managed to come back and play. It was a very, very good effort and batted extremely well. And then we just sort of collapsed after that. We got to about 140 and it was never going to be enough. I think they probably got it after about 30 overs, something like that.
No, not even.
No,
that.
20. Sorry, with about 30 overs left, I would say.
Yeah,
something like that.
And you mention it enough, Joe, throughout these podcasts. I see you got a 10-ball duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good ball.
No, not really. Not really. It was a very poor shot. It was very odd. I couldn't get comfortable when I was batting.
Right.
It's a very odd ground, Darwin. It's on a really big slope, and it was the pitch was where I was stood was quite crumbly, so I couldn't make a proper mark. These are all ridiculous. They're not excuses because it was a terrible shot. It really was. It was bad. I didn't move my feet, and I just kind of flailed the bat at it and nicked off to first slip. Right. But I just didn't know what to do.
No, a bit crumbly.
A bit crumbly.
Right.
So when I made a mark, it just crumbled.
Right. So you didn't know where you were standing? You didn't know where your wickets were or anything?
I had a rough idea. Because they're only about a foot behind me. But
they were somewhere behind me.
They were somewhere, and it wasn't a great ball. It was perfectly fine. But on a normal day, I probably would have left it, or tried to cut it or something like that. But I just prodded at it really. And then we lost 2 in an over. The Pazza got a really terrible LBW. It was dreadful. And then Francois got a leading edge to mid-wicket. So then you're already behind. Then you're behind the game a little bit there. Ben and Paddy had quite a good partnership as they were batting, and I think Finchy probably got about 10, something like that.
If I was lucky.
8.
8.
Not double figures. 8.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then from there we scraped to 140, and it was never going to be enough, really.
No.
Really. Well, I say it was never going to be enough. The next day.
With loads to spare. Finchy, anything to add on that before we move on?
No, not really. It's just one of those. It felt a slightly different feel around the group than when I last played against Clitheroe in the T20. I think you put that down to isolation. That group of players worked bloody hard during the week. Yeah. And you could tell that they just didn't have that sharpness there, to be honest. And it was interesting just coming back in. But exactly what Joe said. No one in the top 6 really went big with Ben, to be honest. So. Yeah.
And it is, as much as people might think, they're only amateurs, it's not a big deal being away for 10 days. But the way the league is now and how tough it is, you put the effort in, you'll get the rewards. And if for whatever reason you can't get that practice together or that training together, it is difficult. So there we go. Is that, again, I'll throw it out there. We're 7th now in the league. The points are still quite tight. Do we think that's it for the season for the league? I don't know. Is it still up there? Is it available for us? Joe Martin?
I think if we can get a run together, then there's always a chance. It just depends on how consistent we can be.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
The difference, and I think you've talked about this in the past. You've got a league now where a lot of teams can beat each other.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you put a consistent run together, you've then got the chance of some others slipping up. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a big call, but like you said, I think we're still with 11-22. So there's 8 games to go. So, Gooch, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think we should write it off and just concentrate on the cup, or?
I don't think we should write it off. I think, like Finchie says, we're in a league now where teams can slip up because they're playing against better opposition week in, week out. It's going to be tough. We've left ourselves a mountain to climb. You look at the league table. Even if we were to get 12 points from our game in hand, that'd take us to 92, which is 36 behind Walsden. So that's still we've still got to make 3 full wins up on them in the course of 8 games, which seems a little unlikely when you look at it like that.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's hope last Sunday kickstarts things. So we've been a bit doom and gloom here. Let's get into the upbeat. Joe Martin, I want to tell us about Sunday. What's up, Joe?
Sorry, I'm just eating a pizza. It was really hot. So, sorry, I'm very sorry. It was an excellent half of a game for us, I would say. Oh, sorry, Bill Gates has just emailed me. It was an excellent half of a game. Right. Is the best way I can describe it. People were saying, what a match. What a game. I said, well, half of it was, to be honest with you. Amazing. I've never played in a game like it. Never.
All right, so let me just sum up. We were all out for 130 with 8 and a bit overs to go. Watching it from afar, it would appear that we'd blown it, or because it's a sunny day, the picture's great, and then when you see that we bowl them out for 87, I'm immediately thinking that it's a Lowerhouse pitch that's completely got too dry, and it's gone to 2 pace, and the ball is the wicket's crumbling, and the ball's keeping low. But I've spoke to a couple of people since, and that's not the case. Is that about right, Joe Martin? The wicket was adequate and played okay?
I thought it was a pretty good wicket. I mean, I batted for probably 10 overs, something like that. And it obviously was early in the game, so later on it probably got a little bit slower, but I don't think it was certainly wasn't 130 players 90 wicket as the scorecard reads, I would say. You would have expected on a typical day for us to score 200 and them to probably get somewhere close.
Yeah,
I would say, but I don't really know anything about wickets.
So when you look at like Paddy Martin, 26 runs, 58 balls, Finchie 4 off 29, Dean 17 off 32. So as it turns out, they're valuable runs, really, because once you get to that 100, I'm not saying 130 is going to be a winning score, probably 8 times out of 10. But it's certainly a lot better than being 90 all out.
What I will say, and I don't give him enough credit at all, is Paddy's innings was vital. Right. It was so important, and he batted really well as well.
Yeah,
he's batted so well, grafted, and he was scoring. He was scoring quite well until we started to lose wickets, but he hung around, kept picking up runs where he could, and batted extremely well. When everything was done at the end, I was very, very sorry. I was very, very proud of him. It was very good. It was very good innings. Played really well.
Yeah, no, he's been there. He's put there's about 60 been put on, with Paddy being not out at the end. Finchie, how did you find that wicket? How did you find it to bat on?
It was fine, to be honest. I mean, when I went in, we were under the cosh a little bit, and just to mirror what Joe said, really, Paddy was so calm and collected. It's probably the calmest I've ever seen or ever batted with him, to be honest. He was in control. He was itching to go. He was itching to go after them, but trying to take it as deep as you possibly could down to the last 10 overs kind of got us scraping up to 130, and Dean was going well, to be fair to him. When Dean, that partnership with Paddy and Dean is the one that got us to some element of respectability, to be honest. But the wicket itself was fine. I would argue that they're probably the 2 best bowling units in the league going at each other there, and maybe the scorecard does reflect that once you get on top, or each bowling attack got on top, you can see the pressure it builds. So I'd say it was more around the 2 bowling attacks and the pitch, to be honest.
Yeah. And that's a good point. This one-day cricket now, whether it's 20 overs or 50 overs, it's all about the batters. It's all about, smashing it and being positive from the word go. But like you said there, Finch, two good bowling attacks who try to work the opposition out. So the feeling in the dressing room at half-time, how was that, Joe Martin?
Well, I was in my dressing room. So I was sat with Paddy. It wasn't great, to be honest with you, because scoring 130 against Walsden, you'd typically think that they'd probably knock it off in about 14 overs.
Yeah.
They usually bat. And I don't know what Finchy sort of thought about it, but I was just sort of dying for us not to do what we did against Darwin the day before. And I wanted us to take 3 or 4 wickets and to take it 30 overs, 35 overs, and have a little bit of respectability and get a bit of pride back. Because we've all played enough games to know that when you're playing against the top teams, typically, on a good wicket, 130 probably isn't enough.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You would say probably 19 times out of 20, all being equal between the sides. So have they started off quite slowly? We've got the first wicket when they've only got 5, and then the second wicket when they've got 7. Have they started off slowly? And we just kept wickets?
Hawkey's first over was excellent.
Yeah.
I think the ball was swinging and he bowled really tight. He bowled at the stumps. I think we had an appeal for a catch behind early in the first over that was turned down. But we heard a little noise. That's why I appealed.
Right.
I don't cheat, Jez.
No, I didn't say. Did he hit it?
No. Well, apparently not. The umpire didn't give it, so fair enough. These things are fine. And then Francois, I think his first ball went for 4, and then the ball that got Gale out was quick. It was really quick. If it had nicked it would have hit me in my face, I think.
Right.
But it probably pitched on middle and off and took the top of off stump. It was brilliant. And then that sort of, we thought, oh, well, fair enough. If we can get another one here and another couple, we might, see where we go. And then from there, Hawkey and Francois bowled fantastic, brilliant. Really.
That's good. That's good because that's what they've both been carrying injuries for for a couple of weeks, so they're fully fit. They're firing on all cylinders, and that's what we need. After the 2, the COVID situation and then the 2 defeats. So that's fantastic that they're back up and running. So then we get the 3rd wicket and they've only got 18. The 4th wicket at 22. Were you comfortable then that the game was going to go to be a tight game, or could one innings have just changed it at any time, bearing in mind their pros coming in at 5?
Well, if their pro battered the rest of the innings, they'd have won.
Right.
Would be my honest assessment of it.
I think another 10 overs of him, to be fair, gets them to a point where they're confident, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you look at Gale and Guildford coming in that low down, they've scored big runs in the past. So
yeah. So just talk us through that, Finch. He's 20 off 21 as their pro. He's come in and only got 18. Is he working it around well, or is he playing a little bit aggressively?
I mean, it's only the second time I've played against Walsden, but in both times I've played, he's gone hard early doors. Yeah. So in the context of the game, he's gone relatively hard there, hasn't he? Run a ball pretty much. Yeah. And ultimately, that was his downfall, to be honest. He's hit one into the pocket on the leg side, taken Francois on for his second run, and that it's a direct hit from the boundary. All the odds are in their pros' favour, but one thing's for sure, he wouldn't be running as hard if it was one of the other batters that had hit it into the pocket for 2. So, that possibly that piece of fielding by Frankie possibly was the one that I think everyone then started to think, okay, keep doing what we're doing here, and we can grind a result out. Yeah,
because like you said, he's got them up to 44 for 4, which is a recovery as such. But then he's out. It really is game on, and I'm sure you lot were all jubilant and jumping all over each other. It does buy you a couple of wickets. There's that sort of. What's your thoughts, Dooch, on that situation for leading up to their pro batting and how he seemed to be going until he was run out?
Well, I think being a Lowerhouse man, you are always naturally a little pessimistic.
Yeah.
And even though they were 20 for 4 or whatever it were, I was always thinking, we sat with a couple of our learned supporters, ex-players, and we were all saying they will get a partnership at some stage. We're not going to keep taking a wicket every 5 runs. It never works out that way. So when Pro got to 20, he's starting to think we're going to have to get another wicket soon, or else it's going to start tipping in their favour again. But when we got him out, then we got another one and another one. Purely because we were playing Walsden, I still felt, even though they were 7 down, because we got such a low total, I still felt we needed to get another wicket. We kept needing to take wickets because I always felt that if they'd have had any kind of partnership, the way their lads bat, they'd have only needed to bat together for 10 overs, like Finch said earlier, and that would have hurt us. But it never really panned out that way. The lads who normally come in and be aggressive for them, Gale and Guildford, they were in with plenty of overs to go. And I think that maybe got in their head a little bit. They tried to perhaps play the situation rather than play how they would normally play. If there'd only been, say, 10 or 15 overs left and they needed to get them 80 runs in 10 or 15 overs, I think that would have suited them a little better. Whereas the fact that they had 30 overs left, it probably got in their heads a little bit, and they were playing correctly rather than the way that they usually play, which by all accounts is a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It does, it has those effects on people. That's what cricket's about. So then, and it looks, the tail was wrapped up. I know they faced quite a few balls, 37, 32, 23, but once you've got them, it's 70 for 8, 87 for 9, it's more than confident. So it's a fantastic victory, is that? It really will bode well for the final, which is at Clitheroe on August the 15th, which is fantastic. Is there anything else, Joe Martin, about that game, or Fincher?
I would just say that I actually think as we progress through our bowling innings, having the low score actually helped us, because it meant that we couldn't give anything away.
Yeah.
But it also meant that, I think that, as Joe said, they changed how they batted. I think if we'd have got maybe 150 to 170, I think they'd have just played freely.
Yeah.
But because they were so close, they were just they weren't really. It wasn't a typical sort of Walsden innings that we were used to. These are all sort of hypotheticals, right?
No, but you've got to give, like Hawke and Francois can be the most frustrating cricketers you've ever come across, because they're so talented. And they come up with so many different theories, all massively well intentioned for the betterment of Lowerhouse. But you've got to give them credit. That first 18 over spell that them two bowled, and were bowling as well at the back end as they were at the beginning. That's as good an opening spell I've seen for a long time. And I take my hat off to them, really, because they got us into a position where we could squeeze and tighten things up. So it's not often I give praise to them too, but I think it's fair that they deserve it from the weekend.
Yeah. No,
it was amazing, Jez.
Yeah, that's good.
Amazing.
No, that's brilliant. They'll do them both a world of good as well. It really would, coming back from injuries. Certainly Hawke, his confidence has been a little bit low. He gets frustrated more with himself or other things that went on. So I think it's fair to say Walsden would have been sick as chips, would they, at the end of that? They wouldn't have been particularly happy. I mean, they never seem a very happy, go lightly bunch of lads anyway. So how did they take that defeat?
You know what, Jez? I thought they were a top draw at the end.
Really?
Yeah, I have to take my hat off. The way they were at the end, they stuck around, got stuck in, talked quite a bit about the game, really, and the league and whatnot. And and I haven't played against them, so you hear all these things from different.
Yeah.
And they play the game in their own way. They play it tough, and that's the way they've been successful. But the way they were at the end, you got to doff your hat, I suppose, and say fair enough. Good on you.
Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, they play on the edge a lot. The way that they potentially try to intimidate is on the edge a lot. From watching from the side, it is frustrating to see Point running in for each LBW and screaming in the batter's face. It's not what we're used to.
We're hardly angels sometimes, are we? Though, let's be honest.
I agree. So that's a great victory. Dooch, anything you want to add other than talking about the final?
Oh, it was great. It was great to watch. Great afternoon.
Good.
Obviously, the first half wasn't so enjoyable, but from the minute the second half started, it was a brilliant afternoon to watch cricket. Enjoyable. Not always the greatest watcher, but it was great. Great afternoon Sunday. Brilliant.
Good. And it's worth mentioning now that Frank and other people at the committee at the club are already on with sorting out transport to the Clitheroe game, to the final on the 15th. So please have a look on the website, have a look on the Twitter accounts for any notifications if you want to get travel over to watch in at Clitheroe for the final. So I've just had a look on the website, Finch. You got 500 runs. You passed 500 runs in Lancashire League Worsley Cup games at that weekend when you got 4.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something to hang my hat on for the rest of time, isn't it? Yeah.
It's good. And you're very close to getting 5,000 league runs, I'm led to believe. Are you aware of that?
Is that right? Is that for Lowerhouse? For Lowerhouse?
I'm not sure. We'll have to speak.
They only count for Lowerhouse anyway. I think I've actually got 5,000 if you include the Nelson ones, but
you have
not for Lowerhouse.
30 off for Lowerhouse. Oh, 38.
Okay, well that'll be another 20 innings or so. So I'll have to stick around a bit longer.
You get stuck in, Finch. I'm with you. There's some big scores left in your cup.
I hope so.
It was your 250th game for Lowerhouse league game.
Was it? Wow. Yep. Okay.
Which there you go.
Incredible feat.
Very impressive. Imagine if I was as committed as you, Joe. I'd be up to 500 by now, wouldn't I?
You've got other things going on.
So, Finch, let's. We've discussed through the games. We've got, hopefully people enjoy understanding what went on from the players' side, from Duchess as a spectator, and Finchy coming in and giving us his insight, which is fantastic. Finchy, we've had you on a few times before. You've mentioned yourself there about previously playing at Nelson. We've had a couple of tweets in. One's anonymous. One is from an individual I don't really want to mention, and they're talking about your transferring from Nelson to Lowerhouse and what went on at that time. Will you just talk us through I remember playing against you at Nelson. You were obviously a really, really young lad, lots of ability, a little bit cocky, I would say, but that some people might call it confidence. Just talk us through, your start of your career at Nelson, getting in the first team, and then leaving Nelson. How that all came about, please.
Yeah, so listen, a bit like anyone really, you just end up going down to the club to play. And if I'm honest, that's why I've really enjoyed coming back playing, because watching my youngster Archie and Lily actually play at Leyland, it kind of reconnects you to actually why do you play the game in the first place. So, and you go down and the club becomes your life, doesn't it? And it just so happened that Nelson was my local club, and I'd be there 5 nights a week. I'd train every night I could, and back then I think there was only an under 13s and under 15s team, so you go down on the off chance that someone doesn't turn up, and you play a game, so you do all that stuff, and then you become a regular in the junior teams, and as I'm sure we all did, you work your way up the ranks, don't you? So I was very, very lucky at that time at Nelson, because I had a few people kind of backing me. One was Milton Lord, who we all know, absolute legend. He looked after me through the thirds and the second team. And then Duncan Spencer, who obviously played at Burnley and then moved to Nelson as captain. He gave me my debut really when I think I made my debut when Roger Harper was pro. So I was very lucky to be in a really strong dressing room there for a period of time. And I think my first year we won the league. I contributed very little other than a 16 not out in my first game against Accrington, I think. And then spent a few seasons probably in and out of the first team, not really setting any fires going, but really lucky and really enjoyed it at Nelson.
That's so. How many seasons were you in the first team there? What pros were you playing with around that time?
So what pros? So I remember Alan Dawson. So I think Alan Dawson kind of came to Nelson after his stint at East Lancs. Again, really lucky. I wasn't playing in the first team, but he spent a lot of time with me in the senior nets. Actually, an underrated cricketer, I thought. He was probably one of those seamers who was just, he bowled a pro's length rather than an amateur's length. So would bowl a lot of overs for not very many and keep missing the bat. Someone like him. And then I think we had Roger after that for 2 years, and that was just a different gravy. That was watching a different player altogether. So, you know, a big 6 foot odd off spin bowler who I genuinely don't think spun it a great deal over that 2 year period, but his reputation went before him after however many years at Bacup. And, you know, it was that year. Do you remember that year where we played time cricket?
Yeah.
And it was just boring cricket, but it was perfect for him because he'd bowl 20 odd overs from one end, never get tired. He never had a mid on or a mid wicket because he just fielded it himself. It's like, and he was just meticulous in everything that he did. You know, it sounds really sad, but we used to enjoy watching him field in practice because he was that good. It was, so Roger, and then we might have had Wade Wingfield. I don't know whether you remember him. We had him for a season.
Yeah.
Didn't really go as well as it should have done, really. But then, I can't remember who the back end was. But so some really good pros and some really good amateurs as well. You know, that Eula played against Jez for years. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, you know, like you said, Marcus, Duncan, first of all, Marcus and Carrots and all these are great players. You know, they were quality players. So you made your debut, I think, I'm right in saying, in '99. And you played there till 2002. So how old would you have been then? You made your debut, you were 16, and by the time you're 18 and 19, and you're looking to leave. What were the circumstances of you leaving such a great club? You know, such a successful club.
Well, my record didn't stand up to much, and I'd not bowled. I don't think did I bowl at all in the league. Yeah, so I bowled a few overs. It's a funny story actually. Probably not the one you want me to regale, but during my last season, I'd started coaching by then, and I'd been coaching all the junior stuff over at Leyland Cricket Club. Right. And they asked me whether I wanted to play for them, and being quite a young, naive bloke, I thought, well, we play on Sundays in the Lancashire League, so I might as well play on Saturday in the Northern League, not knowing that we couldn't be registered with 2 teams. So I played about 4 games before anyone realised, and did all right at Leyland, actually.
How did you get found out?
I think I might have scored a 50, and I was totally naive. I didn't realise I was doing anything wrong. So then, obviously, it all kicks off. It's like, well, you can't do that. So the league banned me from playing first team cricket. So I ended up playing second team for the rest of the year, as long as I didn't play for Leyland. And to be fair, Milton sorted that one out for me, because I could quite easily have been banned from both leagues. And as I said, it was totally naive. I just wanted to play as much cricket as I could. But I remember my first game back in the seconds was against Lowerhouse, and Stan was playing. So Stan turned up. He was absolutely hammered. He stunk of beer. To this day, he denies it, but he stunk of beer. He had his work shirt on instead of a cricket shirt. So he had a white kind of sergeant's out shirt on, or whatever it was.
It just took his epaulets off.
Yeah. And obviously my dad knew him, and my dad went, "Oh, Stan's a good player. He's a great player. I've known him in the police, played for Lancashire Police. He's done all this." I'm like, "Oh, blimey, here we go." Anyway, he couldn't stand up straight, could he? Missed a straight one and then walked off for single figures. But Ben Eat was playing that game, and I got 80 odd, and Ben dropped me on about 20, I think. So that's my first kind of encounter with Lowerhouse. So it got to the end of that season. It just, for whatever reason, it just petered out. I did my coaching course, I think my level 3 with Nigel Brown and Benbow, Chris Bembers, and they did a job on me, really. Brownie especially. When it comes to Lowerhouse, you'll open the batting, you'll get a bit of a ball. Unbeknown to me, he hadn't even talked to anyone about it. But I ended up sitting in the old clubhouse with Stan, and Stan's like, away you go. And that was the year we signed Q Ali, and was it Cameron Farouk?
Cameron, yeah.
Yeah, so I just kind of went under the radar a little bit, because them two were quality players. I had no real background to do on. So I'm very grateful for Matt, who was captain then, who just stuck me opening the innings and gave me the ball every so often.
Yeah.
So fair play.
Brilliant. And that was 2003, I think it was, that when you came over.
And you kept wicket. And you kept wicket in a game, didn't you, Finch?
I don't know whether it was that year, but probably not one to spend any airtime on, really, because it was well, it was nowhere near average. It was terrible. But it was Ryan Harris was bowling. I was missing straight ones off Jez that were going for buys. And I think Matt came up to me and said, Finchy, I really need you to bowl. But in reality, it was you need to get those gloves off, mate. It was an embarrassment. So I actually think that might have been the start of my bowling career at Lowerhouse, was that in desperation to get the gloves off me, he says, you might as well have a bowl.
Yeah, right, brilliant. Is Dooch, is there anything, can you recall that period when Finchie came down?
Yeah, I remember it very well. My favourite early game of Finch's was when he got beat Bacup at home in 2003, and we never beat Bacup. We haven't beaten them for a while whilst I've been in the first team. I've only been in the first team 3 or 4 years at that stage. And I was used to getting pumped by Bacup and Sean Young. And we beat them at home that year. I think they got 250-ish and Finchie got 100 in the response, and we managed to knock them off. And that was a good day.
It was a good day, but I think you had to come in and finish it off, didn't I? I think I caffled at the last hurdle, but
but you came in and you got 100. You did get 100, and I think 103 or something like that. So you did the donkey work for sure.
Kind of you to bring that one up, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, 104 you got, Finchie, chasing 250.
Right.
Yeah, we had a sub-pro.
Oh, New Zealander, wasn't it?
Yeah, Hitchcock, good lad.
Hitchcock, yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear, Finchie. And it's obviously you were a proper Lowerhouse, so you've been down there all the years, and you've contributed so much. You've won the medals, you've won the supporters love you to bits, etc. Let's just move on, because there's been quite a bit of controversy on some of the older podcasts that we've had here about the ex-players and some of the current players singing your praises, etc. Apart from when it comes to the captaincy, which people don't realise. It seems like you're only captain for 2 or 3 games, but you were officially the captain for 1.5 years. How do you see that period went for you and for the club?
Yeah. I mean, I'll get into it properly in a minute, but it was always something I wanted to do. I was very proud for the captain because, we'd had Matt, Joe had kind of, I don't know how many you actually
ended up 2 years.
Yeah, he did 2 years. I think I was Joe's VC for both of those. And, you take a lot of pride in doing that. And I was honoured. If I'm being truly honest, I probably felt a little bit like David Moyes. I think Joe realised that the team was on a bit of a downward spiral. So he jumped a little bit before he was probably going to be pushed. But I look back. Listen, what would I have been there? 23. So I was still young. Stupidly got married that year as well. So there was a lot going on. It just wasn't very good. Let's be honest. Although the results after my tenure didn't improve too much for a couple of years, but if I could have 1.5 years back and do it differently, 15 years on, I'm never going to get the opportunity again. But you would do it a hell of a lot differently, and you'd do it and you'd concentrate more on the people that you've got rather than what people are doing with bat and ball in hand, really. So listen, I loved it. I was proud to do it. It wasn't, it's possibly a little bit too early for me, but I just wasn't very good for 1.5 years, and you just got to hold your hand up sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think that's a year Ryan went back into it as well.
I mean, we didn't have like the second year was that the year we signed Jason Frazier. I can't remember who we'd signed, and then we ended up getting Aaron O'Brien, who was on paper a good late replacement. If we didn't sign him before the start of the season, Ryan went home. It's different, isn't it? I win one more game in that first year, you finish 5th rather than 9th or 10th. You get Ryan all year, he's going to win you 3 or 4 games single-handedly. So, but hold my hand up. It wasn't my best 1.5 years, but as I said, absolutely. I can't say I massively enjoyed it, but I was proud to do it.
Yeah. And you've come back from that. You were very young. And I'm just you've got a good point there, Finchie, about your Moyes comment, because only the second game of the season, we're 4-1 all out, and you've got Clang wicket keeping for you. It's not ideal, is it? When, there's not a strong side there.
When Fellaini turns up to be first change bowler, you got something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also, so 2007, you would have been, 24 then?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So that was the year I packed in, wasn't it? It's bizarre year that, because I'd actually packed in before that cup game against Burnley.
Right.
And
what were the circumstances about you packing in?
Just, I think my professional career was going quite well. I was spending more and more time away from home on the road. It was just, if you want to be captain of a league team, you've got to. It's bloody hard work, isn't it? You'll know it through the selector stuff now and through your experience. You don't finish on a Sunday and then come back the Saturday after. You've got to pick teams, and then it changes day in, day out. Then you're worried about training. Who's turning up at training? Is it raining? Do you turn it off? Do you call it off? And you've got all those things. And if you're not committed to it, it's not fair on you, and it's not fair on the club, is it? And, if the results would have been going slightly better, would I carried on? Who knows? But it is one of those things. It turned out that me giving up meant we probably had one of the best captains for the next however many years that I've played under. So, big pat on the back for me of making the decision for the betterment of Lowerhouse Cricket Club rather than for my own ego. So
it was the exact opposite, Jez, of him not deciding to play against Norden.
Right.
Just going back to what you said there about the Pro in 2007, I've just looked it up. It wasn't. We didn't sign Craig that year. We actually signed John Moss.
John Moss.
That's it. Oh yeah. He'd have been.
That would have been a signing.
That'd have been another Andrew McDonald type signing. That.
Yeah.
Not as quick as Ryan. Bowls it slightly fuller length. In fact, I forgot about him. I mean, what a state career he had, and what a good player he would have been. So,
and then something happened and the league. Nigel reported it on the website on the 17th of April, saying he's not coming. So that's when we got Ryan for the first portion of the season, and then Aaron O'Brien came in.
Yeah. So it's a really big strain, because you look honest, Finchy. I'm just flicking through odd games. Third game of the season, you haven't bowled yourself, and I'm into game 3 or 4 at all. Which thing? What happens with captains? But the third game of the season, you and Ryan put 257 on for the first wicket.
Yeah. Oh, was that year? Was that 2007?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
so what a strange.
It was just bizarre. It was a little bit bizarre that it came out of nowhere. I think it was one of those where had Ryan opened the batting before that?
No, not a great deal. No,
I don't think he had. And we just had a chat and just said, listen, there's no what we're going to do, and we knew we were playing against Harwood.
That's right.
I'll be honest, he bowled 3 or 4 overs of genuine pace and then just settled into military medium, because it played for us the year before, or a couple of years before.
Burnley,
Yeah, and it's just one of those, everything happened and everything, went to plan, didn't it? But I mean, watching Ryan in full flow was scary, because you stand at the non-strikers and it could go anywhere. A yard outside off stuff, working it through square leg on one leg, and you just think, wow, they play a different game, don't they? I genuinely didn't realise that was that year, actually. I thought it was a little bit earlier than that. So.
Yeah, I mean, you start flicking through it. It wasn't an extraordinary year, but as you've said, you got shafted by Dooch, and you did the club a favour by getting Charlie in. So
I'll cling on to that. I'll cling on to both those, but I think we both know that isn't true. But I'll cling on to it.
Oh, brilliant. No, I really appreciate you going through that for us, Finchy, and it might ease a few people's questions as they keep quizzing us. So I've not a great deal else to go through on here. Joe Martin, anything you want to bring up before we close it?
I don't think so.
No?
Just we need to do a proper one with Finch in the winter. Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, it would be good. I was going to start it now, to talk about your professional career, Finchy, but I do think a special episode for that around the women's game and how that's developed. And your role in it, if you're happy enough to come in and do that with us in the winter, that'd be fantastic, John.
Of course I am, yeah. We can talk about that all day long.
Yeah, that'd be.
I was a bit better at that than I was at captaincy. So.
Yeah, well, you must be. We're seeing you on telly often when the girls are doing the business and winning. Dooch, anything you want to add before we finish?
Nope.
No, you're all happy with that. We're just looking. England needs 6 runs off 7 balls to beat Pakistan at Old Trafford. Oops.
What are they chasing down? What did they end up chasing?
Don't like Livingston. He's brain dead.
155-ish chasing. Livingston's just got out with quite a poor shot, top edge to short third man. So they need 6 off 6 balls. So anyway, we'll call it a day at that, and then you can watch this last over yourselves, chaps. So thanks everyone for contributing to the questions, and we're talking you through these last few games. Thanks, Finchie. Thanks, Joe Martin. Thanks, Dooch. And don't forget, subscribe to our podcast and keep passing the word around. Everyone's loving it. Thanks very much, everyone, and good night.
Bye.
Order! Send more house to save the house!